Hi guys, it's Carrie Hink
and Sarah Norris,
and Harley, a therapy dog with us today.
And we wanted to talk today a little bit about sensory tools. And there are the more conventional ones that we see a lot about on Facebook, like the fads, the fidget spinners, the fidget cubes. Rachel Schneider talked about her glasses. I'm wearing mine today. That there are different tools that we use that are specifically for helping our senses. But then there's also things in our environment that are maybe not so conventional, that aren't marketed to be specifically for that. And we were inspired by Harley being in our office today, that all of the therapeutic benefits that he brings, and he's not marketed as a sensory tool specifically.
Yeah, it's always, once I start a client with therapy, always the first question I get is, okay, now what should I buy for home? What do you suggest I get? Do I need to put up swings in my house? Do I need, what fidget should I get? Should I be using fidgets at work, at school? And I think it's such a good conversation to have about what do you already have in your house that can be really helpful from a sensory perspective.
And one of the things that are pretty common are pets. And Harley has a lot of wonderful sensory properties, but there are also things about him that would be challenging, some sensory properties that are challenging about him. So we thought we could kind of use him as an example of an unconventional tool. And some people do have therapy dogs or dogs that are aids for them that do help them specifically with medical challenges and things like that. So it's not an unheard of strategy.
Yeah.
But it's something that we thought it would be kind of cool to dig into, of like, what is it that would make that helpful for some people and what would make it challenging for others?
Yeah. So starting out, I think the biggest one we all think about when we start thinking about sensations in dogs is touch. So dogs come with a lot of different tactile qualities depending on the dog. They can be really furry and soft. They can have shorter hair and be a little bit more coarse. They can be warm. Most times they're warm. And a big one is that they provide deep pressure touch to our body.
And it's, of course, going to really depend on the dog.
Right.
Because Harley is a larger dog, he's more of a deep pressure kind of dog. So if he climbed in my lap, I would get a lot of input from his body weight. Whereas if I had a Yorkie in here, they are much lighter and they move a lot faster and they have little paws. And so they do a lot more of that quick, light touch kind of input.
Right. Also thinking about puppies versus older dogs. Puppies tend to move in more unpredictable. They tend to be less trained, and so they're more unpredictable. They move faster, they jump higher, and especially once we get into older therapy dogs like Harley, he moves in very slow, predictable manners, as you can see.
He's also a very well-behaved dog, and I think that's one of the things that's really challenging about puppies, is that you get a new puppy, and yes, they're cute, and they're soft, and they're warm, and they're snuggly, but they chew things, they make messes, they don't always go outside to use the bathroom. And so when you're thinking about, okay, so maybe a pet would be a good idea for me, it's helpful to think through, well, do I want to get a brand new puppy? Yes, there's benefits, but there's also a lot of challenges that come with a puppy. Or do I want to get an older dog? Or do I want to get a different animal entirely? And some people definitely prefer cats to dogs. Other people don't like cats because cats really like to get in your space.
Right.
And they like to sleep on your face. And they can cause challenges in their own way.
Yeah. From the tactile, thinking about olfactory, if a cat is sleeping next to your face, if you have a sensitive smell system, that can be a really challenging thing for an individual.
Yeah. Another thing to think about with animals, and really when you're thinking about sensory properties in general, of what's going to support me, what is it that I enjoy? How can I maximize that? So I really like soft fur. So the longer haired mixes are definitely my preference. Some people don't like that. They might like the smoother coats. So thinking about like what is going to be a breed that actually meets my personal preferences. And there's a lot of factors that people and dog trainers will talk to you about that have to do with their personalities and things like that. So really kind of that general, like, do you want a yappy dog? I don't. But some people don't mind that, and they like the smaller ones they can carry in a bag with them, things like that. So thinking about the things that you like and how do I get the best version of that for me, and then thinking about the things that you don't like and minimizing those as much as you can. So
Right.
I love soft furry dogs, but I don't like shedding fur. So maybe a long-haired poodle mix would work really well for me. That it might not be the same exact tactile experience, but I wouldn't have to deal with the fur shedding everywhere and having to clean up all the time.
Right. Yeah, and we working with Harley earlier, we were talking about shedding and how many sensory qualities shedding has that comes along with it. That is another visual, it's a big visual challenge. It can be unexpected touch. Having fur, I mean, I babysat a dog a couple weekends ago and I'm still finding fur unexpectedly on different clothing or on my arm, and that can be a really unexpected touch, which we've talked about when you have touch sensitivities. Unexpected touch can be a really jarring experience.
And that again goes back to just having an animal in general. Is
Right.
If you struggle with being touched unexpectedly, animals that are free roaming in your house may not be the best option for you. You may need to have one that stays outside in your backyard. You may need one that's kennel trained that you can let out when you need it. But then there's that whole, like, you don't want to keep an animal outside of contact with other people too. So it's really considering, well, maybe a lizard or a bunny
Right.
or a hamster or a hedgehog.
Another great thing that a lot of my families that I've worked with have done is hippotherapy and working with horses. And that's another idea of how to incorporate animals into your life. Maybe if pets aren't for you, and maybe if that is too much of a challenge, going and finding pet therapy, things like hippotherapy, has been such a great experience for some of the kids and adults that I've worked with.
Definitely. And another really great idea that I've utilized in the past, and I know some of our coworkers here do as well, is they feel bad that they don't have the time and the energy to really dedicate to an animal during the week. So they actually volunteer to take an animal that's in training to be a therapy animal, and they'll kind of take them home for the weekend and provide like that second home for them. And not every place in the world has that opportunity, but it's something to look into if that fits you. I love animals, I can't own one. And so I personally like to volunteer to babysit dogs and cats, and I like to be able to love on my friends' animals, and if I see one in public, I'll ask if I can touch it because it is therapeutic to me. But I've also learned that my life is too full to feel like I'm okay to own my own animals at this point.
Yeah, so that's just one example of kind of an unconventional sensory tool. There's many more that probably are lying around your house that you might be using as a sensory tool that isn't in that fad sensory tool category, but can be really helpful. And we'd love to hear some examples of these, if you guys can share them with us.
And to just kind of get the ball rolling, one of my examples that I use all the time are pin caps and paper clips.
Yes.
That they're definitely not designed to be fidgets,
Yes.
but they're something that I use regularly to keep myself regulated during the day.
Yeah, paper clips are a big one for me too. They come in our, we have them in a lot of our meetings, and yeah, those can be really helpful. Also, I think one that I've been using for years that now I recommend to a lot of people is the Camelback water bottle that has the squeeze top that you can drink through. A lot of proprioceptive feedback in those, so yes.
They're out there, and I
Yes.
think it's that when you start to do what I was saying earlier about finding what you like, how do I get more of that more regularly, figuring out what you don't like and figuring out how do I minimize that in my life. That's really the whole purpose of sensory tools, is to bring enjoyment to your life and regulation to your life and minimize that overstimulation, that overwhelm as much as you can.
Yes. So we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, guys.